Thank you for sitting down for this interview with us.
Sure.
It's a pleasure. What's something that you want UNT students to know about you?
I have been teaching at North Texas for 30 years. I have 2 degrees from North Texas, so I know a lot about the university, and I feel like I've seen a lot of students through the years, so I know a lot about the students.
What made you get into Latino Mexican American studies?
When I was at North Texas, I was here during a period of time when Mexican American students were very active on campus. We formed an organization called MASA, Mexican American Student Association, because we didn't have any faculty that were Latinx. When I went through school, there weren't any classes for me to take on the topic, so everything I learned was self-taught. So now I was part of the group of faculty who brought the idea of Latino studies or Latinx studies as a curriculum.
What's something that surprised you getting into the field?
There's so many stereotypes about the Hispanic population. The conventional wisdom when I first started reading about it was that Latinos weren't very interested in politics, that they couldn't vote, that maybe they weren't citizens. There were just a lot of myths about how Latinos behave politically, and once you start studying them, you start busting those myths, and it was really interesting.
What's something that you feel a lot of UNT students should know about politics?
One of the things that I stress in my class is that it's your government, right? If there's something that you don't like about your government, it's never going to change unless you get involved. And so what I try to impress on my students is, there's different paths that you can take. Most people think it's just elections, and of course there's a lot of attention on elections right now because the primary's coming up. But protesting, writing letters to your members, your elected officials, you write your members of this legislature or your Congress, to the newspaper. You can always join an interest group. There's more power in numbers. And when students realize, well, it's not just elections, then usually they get a little bit more involved.
How do you believe the upcoming primaries could affect the Latino and Mexican American community?
There are certain candidates who are running who are anti-immigrant. We'll leave them unnamed. The Hispanic population is not an immigrant population anymore. It's primarily U.S. born. It's primarily U.S. citizens, and that's particularly the case in Texas because they've been here for so long. There are many here that are, many generations they've been in Texas. But they have friends and relatives who are immigrants. So if those candidates are elected that are anti-immigrant, that could directly affect them. One of the issues of late has also been the content in public school curriculum, which relates to ethnic studies. And so depending on who wins the election, and remember, it's not just the governor and lieutenant governor and legislature, we're electing the members of the Texas State School Board who decides the curriculum for the public schools. So that could be another issue that's really important.
How would you say that racial stereotypes have affected you and the direction you've gone in your career?
When I graduated from North Texas with my bachelor's degree, I wanted to go to graduate school. I always knew I wanted to. And I graduated with pretty good grades. I was summa cum laude. And the first program that I applied for, I wasn't accepted. I wanted to be in public administration. I wasn't going to be a political scientist. I wanted to work in government where I could help people, but I didn't get accepted. I went by public administration because I wanted to know why I didn't get accepted. I had good grades. I had interned in the Texas governor's office. So, I thought I had practical experience too. And the graduate advisor complimented me on my English. And I got to look the guy in the eye and say, well, thank you. It's the only language I speak, much to my regret. And so it was like, there. That was when those sorts of things.
Okay. Do you have any last messages for any students?
I would just say that, college isn't supposed to be easy. It is a challenge. It's not an entitlement. Take advantage of it. don't give up. And again, don't go it alone. Get organized. Join a study group or any kind of a student group that shares your interests.